Hi, myself is Dr. Kavita. I welcome all of you to my education channel. Today we are going to see about OSCE. That is, it's an acronym used for Objective Structured Clinical Examination. It's a standardized scoring tool and its expansion is Objective Structured Clinical Examination. OSCE is objective because standardized scoring tools are used to assess the student's skill as well as knowledge. It is structured, that is same level of difficulty all the students will be going through. So our evaluation also will be uniform. It is clinical because it represents the real life clinical situations. And it's an examination because by using it, we can assess the student's competence. So we are calling it as examination. I'm giving you a short but comprehensive definition of OSCE. It is an assessment of well-defined clinical skill. This definition is given by Ward and Willis in the year 2016. Now let us see the components of OSCE. The first component is time. For example, if there are 10 stations, if possible, give same time for all the stations. Otherwise, plan the time in such a way that all the students are able to complete all the stations. And the next component is observation or observer. We have to observe whatever the students are doing and it has to be recorded. And the third component is use of standardized tool. Usually we'll be using a standardized tool, and if it is a skill station, we'll be using checklist. And the fourth component is communication. Sometimes the students may think that I'm not performing procedure for a patient or I'm not along with the patient, so it is not necessary to communicate, but it's not like that. It's important that the students has to communicate and it should be assessed. So these are the main components of OSCE. Next, we can see the advantages of OSCE. We know that if we are conducting exams in hospital, different students will be getting different conditions. But here, uniform scenarios will be there for all the students. That doesn't mean that all the students will be getting the same scenario, but the difficulty level will be same for all the students. And the next advantage is large samples of students' clinical abilities can be assessed. For example, if you got 100 students in a batch, we can assess the 100 students, and if you are doing the planning effectively, we can assess the 100 students properly. And the next one is examiner can specify in advance what has to be assessed. Here the main advantage is for the students actually. The students will get an advantage that they won't get sudden questions from the examiner. Usually in our practical examination, the students can expect unexpected questions from all the fields. That means from all the subjects. But here it is not like that. The question should be planned already and we have to write the scenarios in each station. It should be written already. And next one is safety, or no danger or injury, danger of injury to the patient. See, we know that in the real practical examination, due to tension and fear, sometimes the students may not perform some of the procedures which are supposed to do, or students may do some of the things which are not supposed to do. So this may produce or this may become harmful for the patient. But here, since we are conducting it in the simulated lab and we are using simulators, such danger can be avoided. And next one is feedback from actors or simulators. See, for the conducting OSCE, we can use simulators or you can use simulated patients. You can use the actors. So from these two cases, we can have the feedback. Only the thing, if you are using a simulator, you have to put the settings in the simulator for getting the feedback also. And the next advantage is it allows the recall. In case if you are recording the OSCE stations, later after the OSCE examination, the students can go through the videos and they can identify what mistake they have done and later they can correct it. So it's an advantage for the student. And next advantage is situations can be tailored to the level of skills to be assessed. For example, if you are conducting exam for a UG student, you can have the basic skills. If you are conducting the exam for a PG student, you can have the advanced skill. And if you are conducting a competitive examination, or if you are conducting a licensing examination, or according to the level of the students, you can set the stations or you can arrange the stations. That is an advantage. And it allows the teaching audit. We can do the audit of the teaching learning process also by the OSCE. Next advantage is it allows the demonstration of emergency skills. If the examiner wants to see an intubation, it is difficult for us to do it in a traditional examination. But here, because sometimes we may not get the patients for intubation at the time of examination, but here we can have stations for the emergency skill and you can assess those skills also. And variety maintains students' interest. See, we know that during the normal traditional practical examination, the students will be getting one single condition, one single patient. But here the students will be getting different scenarios and different situations. So that variety, it will increase the interest of the students. And next one is increased faculty student interaction. See, in OSCE already I have told you that different stations are there, and in each session an observer also should be there, and the observer will be with the student full time during the entire procedure. The observer will be there, so the chance for teacher student interaction is also more. And OSCE is adaptable to the local needs. You may think that OSCE is possible in a well advanced simulation lab. It's not like that. We can do it in a local situation with the available things. So it is adaptable to the local needs also. And another one, broad sample of knowledge and skill. See, in the normal examination, in the normal traditional practical examination, we are assessing, most probably we are assessing only one skill, or sometimes we may assess the communication skill along with that. That's all. But here you can assess varieties of skills. You can assess the knowledge and skills in different procedures so that you can have different stations. And another advantage is we are getting input from multiple evaluators. For each station, one evaluator will be there if it is possible, if it is available. And the students will be getting, how many are there? From that many evaluators, the students will be getting the input and feedback also. And another one is rapid scoring and decision making. Actually, the evaluator should make the decision making process, do the decision making process and scoring before the next student is coming to the station. So it's a rapid scoring and decision making process. Next, we can see the limitations of OSCE. Here, I'm not using the word disadvantage because OSCE doesn't have any disadvantage. And why I'm discussing the limitations over here means if you're planning effectively and if we know these limitations, we can overcome or we can avoid these limitations also. In that first one is training. Actually, we know that training is needed for the faculties to implement the OSCE effectively. And if I'm telling, I will be telling like this, training is needed for the faculty, for the students and for the simulated patients in case if you are using the simulated patients. And next limitation is risk of observer or examiner fatigue. See, throughout the day or till we are completing the stations, the observer or the examiner has to be with the students or they should be there at the station. So they may get tired. So for avoiding this, what we can do means we can plan the break session in between. And the next one is organizing stations with equal time. It is ideal if you are giving equal time for all the stations. But in case if it is not possible, what we can do means we can plan the break session in between so that we will be able to complete all the students in a batch at a time. And the next limitation is textbook scenario may not mimic the real life scenario. So if you are taking a scenario exactly from the textbook, there will be some difference between the real life situations that we know that. For overcoming that, what we can do means we can take scenarios from our clinical experience. So we can use our expertise or we can use our clinical experience, and on the basis of that we can prepare the scenarios instead of depending on the textbook. And next one is expense. Initially the cost of establishment is there, that is we have to purchase simulators, we have to arrange a room, all those things will be there. But later, once if we are having a well set up simulation lab, everything, later the cost of expense will be same as like other examinations. Now we can see the features of OSCE, the skill that has to be tested in the form of a task. So whatever skills we are going to assess that we are making as a task in a station, and each station we will be giving 5 to 7 minutes, but it's not compulsory that we have to give 5 to 7 minutes. We can, for all the stations, we can decide the time according to the skill or according to the scenario we have arranged over there. And each task is a station. So whatever skill, each skill will be in a station. So we should not put too many skills at a station so that it will be creating confusion for the students. So one skill at a station and around 5 to 7 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes for that skill. That should be the arrangement. And for each task, a checklist is prepared in advance. For evaluating the task, for each station, we have to prepare separate checklist. And the scoring is objective, already we have seen. And simulators or mannequins can be used. For the OSCE examination, we can use the simulators or we can use the mannequins. Even we can use the real patients or we can use the simulated patients. So that depends on you. Next, we can see the components of OSCE. In that first one is the examination coordinator. In order to make sure the smooth conduct of OSCE, a coordinator should be there. In our colleges, we are having departments and each department is working as a team for OSCE, and usually the department head will be the coordinator. You also can do like that. And next one is list of skills, behavior and attitude to be assessed. That is the second component. This we have to make based on the learning outcomes of the students. And the next one is blueprint of the OSCE. You have to prepare a blueprint of the OSCE. I'll just give you an example of blueprint in the next slide. And next, list the equipments required for the station. Whatever equipments needed for each skill, we have to prepare a list of those equipments and we have to assemble all those things at the station. At the time of OSCE, we should not run here and there for getting the things or getting the articles or equipments. Next one is scoring scheme. This is also according to the level of the students and according to the type of examination. If it is a summative examination or if it is a summative assessment, the scoring will be different. And if it is a formative assessment, even if you are not giving the scoring, also it's okay, because later again we are having chance to see the students. For example, if the student is not performing a procedure or a skill effectively, it cannot, if you are not able to give a proper score, no need to give it. Again, you can make the students to do the skill again and you can make the student perfect. Then later you can give the score. So the scoring scheme, anyway, it should be planned. That's all. The next component is examination site or stations. This has to be planned in advance, where it has to be conducted, whether all the equipments are arranged or not, how many stations are needed for the particular examination. All these things should be done for the examination station. And the next component is an examinee or a student. So this is the important component of the OSCE examination. And the another one is patient. That may be a real patient or a simulated patient or a mannequin, that already we have seen. And next component is we need to have a timekeeper. So that person can see the timings and they can give information to change the station after the fixed time. And another one is student rotation. Here now we can see the tips to develop OSCE. The first one is decide on the intended use of the result. That is, see whether you are using OSCE as a formative assessment or as a summative assessment. And decide what OSCE should assess. Whether I want to assess the knowledge of my student or attitude of my student or skill of my student. Look at the learning outcome and see how you are supposed to make the OSCE. And make a blueprint, that is the key of your OSCE examination. Here you can see the example of a blueprint. Plan the topic based on the main areas in the curriculum. See this example here. I have taken the topic infection control. Then I have to decide the form of assessment, whether I have to give a procedure skill station or a history taking session or an examination session, that I have to plan. And like this, I have to spell out what exactly is expected out of the student. So when you are looking at the blueprint, you will get an idea how many stations can be there from each area, like how many stations can be there from there for the procedural stations, how many stations can be there for the skill stations. That idea you will be getting if you are looking into the blueprint. Next, about the OSCE stations. When you are preparing the blueprint, you will get an idea that how many stations you need to have. Consider each task as a station. Don't confuse the students by giving so many tasks in a station. The number of stations depend on the skill you want to assess. But always it is better to have more than 5 stations so that you can assess the students in that particular content perfectly. Before setting the station, first identify a proper venue to conduct the OSCE and make sure that you are having space there to arrange the number of stations as per your blueprint. So these are the important things you should see when you are setting the OSCE station. Now we can see the instructions for the station setup. List the equipments required for the station. So now in the blueprint, as per the blueprint, you know what are the skill stations, what are the things the students are going to do in each station. So prepare a list of things according to the stations and make all these equipments available at the station in advance. And the next thing is instructions or questions to be performed by the candidate. In each session, it should be written very clearly what is expected out of the student. And it is better if you are pasting it somewhere in the station. And it should be visible for all the students. And next one is materials, chair, coat and table. Along with the equipments, other equipments, you should make sure that these things are also available over there if it is needed. And another one is patient, subject or models. So first you should decide whether you are going to use a model, or whether you are going to use a patient, or whether you are going to use a subject. So arrange them accordingly. And the next one is examiner. So for observing or for evaluating the students, we need to have a examiner that we have seen already. And the last one is time frame. The time frame that we have seen already, I have told you that for each station, we can plan the time according to the skill or according to the nature of the station. See, already we have seen the blueprint, so we know that different stations are there. It includes history taking station. If you have given a scenario or a patient, the student should collect the relevant history. For example, if an antenatal mother is there, means the student should collect the antenatal history. And the next one is examination station, where we can have various assessments. Here, we should not tell the student to do the complete antenatal examination if you have given an antenatal patient or antenatal mother. Instead of that, you can tell the student to do the abdominal palpation alone. Otherwise, it will be very broad and it won't be able for the student to, or it won't be possible for the student to complete it within the set time. And the next one is skill station. Here we can plan the procedures. Whatever procedures you are planning, that you can have in the skill station. And another one is communication station. Here we can tell the student to teach the patient. For example, already we have given an antenatal mother. So here you can tell the student to teach the patient about the antenatal diet. And another one is response station. In the response station, we can give a question to the student and the student can answer for the question. For example, if the previous station already we have seen it was about the antenatal examination. So here you can tell the student to write the minor disorders of pregnancy. So the students will be writing the answer in their answer sheet. So that is the response station. And next one is rest station. Here the students will get some kind of rest in between, and all the students, by rotation, all the students will be getting this rest station also. And next one is interpretation of investigations. Here we can use, already we were using an antenatal mother, So that was the procedure actually, that was the main content actually. So here you can give an NST recording and you can tell the student to interpret that. Otherwise you can keep any of the gynecological instrument and you can tell the student to identify the instrument, and you can tell the student to tell the purpose of that. That is also a way. And another one is patient education. Even if communication skill station is there, we can have additional station for the health education also. If needed, we can plan that also. And the next one is basic and advanced clinical skill stations. It should be arranged as per the level of the students. For example, if the student is an advanced PG student, you can plan for the advanced skill, and if the student is a UG student, you can plan for the basic skill. And in this example, actually, we have seen that in the different stations, we were giving antenatal mother continuously. So we have given antenatal diet, antenatal minor disorders of pregnancy, antenatal examination. So there was a link in between these stations. Such stations are known as linked station or couplet station. But it's not compulsory that in a OSCE always you are supposed to give the linked station or couplet station. You can have totally different stations also. So that's all about the stations in OSCE. The third point is develop the case scenario. If you're preparing a clinical scenario, prepare the scenario which is a real representation of the clinical problem. Don't take exactly from the textbook. When you prepare the scenario, make sure that it is validated. I know that it may be difficult for you to validate the scenario every time. For that, what you can do means you can just give it to the concerned seniors in the concerned department, and after discussing with them, you can make the necessary changes and you can make sure that the scenario is adequate. And next one is instruction for the students. That also should be there in the scenario. That is what is supposed to do, how much time they will be getting. All these instructions should be there in the scenario. And time limit, already we have seen about the time limit. There will be set time for each stations. And next is about the core competency. You cannot mix many cases in a case scenario. If you want the student to plan a care, give all the details related to that and keep only the needed things. For example, if you're telling the student to list down the interventions that you should give, or in that case you should give all the signs and symptoms, then only the student can list out the interventions. Next tip to develop the OSCE is decide the assessment of the student. That is, decide how you are going to assess, whether you are going to use a rating scale or a checklist or a scoring scheme. For example, if you want to assess the skill of a student, you can use a checklist. Or if you want to assess the attitude of a student, you can use the rating scale. And if it is a question answer session, and if the students are telling the answer, you can have a scoring scheme. Next one is orientation to the examiners or evaluators. See, the internal examiner may be oriented to the situation because most probably he or she may be the person who is doing the entire arrangement. But we have to give orientation to the external examiner. So we should tell about the instructions, that is, in between the examination they are not supposed to interrupt the students, and whenever after observing the students they have to put the mark or they have to give the marks immediately. And if they are having any corrections or suggestions or comments, they should write, or they should mark it in the observation session. And then and there they should do the marks, and they should write their name and signature in the scoring sheet. All these informations actually you should give to the examiners in advance. Next, develop script and train the standardized patient. Sometimes instead of the simulators, we may be using standardized patients. In that case, we have to give training for the standardized patients also, because they have to be prepared for giving answers for the students' questions. And for the prepared questions, they can give the prepared answers. And in case if they are getting unanticipated questions, you can tell them that they can give the answer like, no, I'm not sure. In that way, they can manage the situation. Next one is ensure integrity of data collection process. That is, we know that we will be having an evaluator in the station, but some station we cannot have evaluators. In all the stations, it may not be possible for you to have the evaluator. And the station without evaluator is known as the unmanned station. But all the other stations, we need to have an evaluator. And the coordinator should make sure that they are completing the scoring key. And it is not completed. If it is not completed, the coordinator should make sure that they are completing it, so that when we are entering the data, it will be easy for you to enter the data. Since even if it is not complete, when you are entering the data, it will be difficult for you. So make sure that the scoring process is completed. And the next one is choosing standard set approach. Decide the cutoff to pass if you are making a cutoff system. Sometimes if you are giving a ranking system, give a rank. So that also should be decided. And next one is compare the score of OSCE. That is always after taking the evaluation, especially if it is a formative one, you have to compare it with the clinical performance of the students, so that you can make sure that it has evaluated the exact competency of the student, so that you can make sure that it is effective also. And the next one is evaluate the effect of OSCE on learners. We may plan and implement, but after that we should see whether it was effective or not. So for that we have to get feedback from the students. So the feedback we can have through the surveys, or we can have through the focus group discussions. Anyway, it is compulsory that we have to get the feedback from the students. And next one is review the entire process. After the OSCE session, the evaluators or the examiners, they should sit together and they should discuss the entire OSCE process, whether they felt any difficulty during the process, whether it was sufficient, whether they have faced any problem. All those things should be discussed, and if anything they have faced, it will help for them to rectify it in the next OSCE session. Next, we can see the process before the real OSCE. Discuss the number of OSCE stations and the time limit, so the students also will get an idea, and tell to the students that a bell will be there after each session, and after the time they will be having 1 minute time for them to the transmission to the other station. Explain all these things very clearly to the students, and in case if the students are having any doubt, clear the doubts of the students and give an answer booklets along with the students, so that in between, if they want to record something or if they want to write something, they can write it in that answer sheet. And you should explain about the station movement also. In case if you are having a second group, sometimes one more additional group may be there on the same day. In that case, you should make sure that the first group is not meeting with the second group, because you may be giving the same station for the second group also. So if the students are discussing for the second group, it will be easy. For that, what you can do means you can have a waiting room for the second group students, and you can have a teacher over there. And when the first group is coming out after the OSCE session, you can direct them through another way, so that we can avoid the discussion among these two groups. And in the station, if possible, you have to give privacy. You can use the curtains, or if available, you can use even different rooms also for the different stations. And in each station, already I have told you that the scenario will be written over there, and instructions for the students also will be written over there. And you should instruct to the student that after one student, that student should not take that instructions and scenario. They should leave over there for the next student. That's why already I have told you, if you are fixing it over there, it will be better. And observe or assess the performance of the student, and the observer or the examiner should stand or sit in a place where they are able to see the students properly, but at the same time make sure that they are not interfering with the students. And once if they have completed, that is, if one student have completed the task in one station, immediately after that the examiner should make his evaluation complete. If she is supposed to give the marks or rating or whatever it is, she should do immediately before the arrival of the next student. And candidate, in case if one candidate is completing the task in a station before the set time, that candidate should wait in that station itself till the time limit. Then after the set time limit only, that student is supposed to move to the next session or next station. And while performing the task, make sure that you are communicating. Always students should make sure that they are communicating, because that also will be evaluated. For that also score will be there. And once if the time is over, and if the student, whether the student have completed or not completed, once after the set time, you should stop the student and you should send the student to the next station. Even if the task is not completed also, after the set time, you should do that. And after the OSCE process, we should discuss the findings with the students, and we should discuss the mistakes they have done, so that the next time they can improve. But when you are giving the feedback, don't start with the negative. It is better to start always with the positive and give suggestions for the students to improve. So as an example, you can tell that, okay, these are the positives you have done, and next time if you are improving or if you are doing like this, it will be better, and these are the areas you need to modify. Like that you can summarize. So this will give a positive feedback, positive impression for the student, and it will be a motivation for the student. And determine whether the student is competent or need additional practice. This we can do in the case of formative assessment. In case if the student is not competent, you can make sure that the student is getting an opportunity to repeat the procedure, repeat the skill once again, so that you can make sure that the student is getting sufficient competency. Next, we can see about the evaluation of the OSCE. In the evaluation of the OSCE, you have to see the three important points. That is, you should see the purpose, the group, and the weightage. In the purpose, first you should see whether it is a learning tool or an evaluation tool. And if it is a learning tool, if the students are making errors, you can make the students to repeat, and it is not compulsory to give the score in that area, in that case. But if it is an evaluation tool, the students may not get an, especially if it is a final evaluation, the students will not get a chance to repeat it. And of course, you are supposed to give the score also. So that's the first thing. That is, you should see whether it is a learning or evaluation tool, whether it is a formative or summative evaluation. The score will be on the basis of that. Next, you should see the group. You should see whether it is a PG group or a UG group, and what is expected from the student. If it is a UG group, we can expect basic skills, and if it is a PG group, we have to expect the advanced skill. So the scenario we are setting over there also should be according to the level of the students. So along with that, we should see whether the student is a first year student. So the scenario should be relevant to the first year student. If the student is a fourth year student or final year student, the scenario should be relevant to the fourth year, so final years. And if it is an entrance examination, or if it is an induction program, or if it is a licensing examination, in that cases you should modify the scenario as per the type of examination. Next, about the weightage. The weightage, it depends on the total marks for the OSCE program. And one more thing, you have to see whether it is in internal assessment. If it is an internal assessment, you may be having other criteria also. Sometimes attendance will be there, or sometimes assignments will be there. So all those things you are supposed to consider along with the OSCE. So you should decide how much weightage you are going to give to the OSCE. And if it is along with other practical examination, sometimes for example, for the obstetrics, sometimes in the morning session they will go to the clinical and they will be having clinical examination, and in the afternoon session they will be having OSCE based examination in that lab. In that case, you should decide how much you can give to the clinical part and how much you can give to the lab part, or to the OSCE part. So that is an important thing. And how to score and interpret the checklist. The clinical points, when you are giving marks in the checklist, we have to give more weightage to the clinical skills when comparing to the communication or interpretation, all those things. More weightage should be there for the clinical points, that is for the skill stations. And this decision of the performance to be based on the performance as well as the total score. Next is evaluation categories for the OSCE. You can have different categories. Here I have given an example. For example, here I have given 30 to 40% for the history taking session, and 20 to 40% for the physical examination, and 10% for the patient education, and 20 to 40 for the nurse patient interaction, and 5% for the recording for the patient note. This is an example. Otherwise, and here you can see another category, that is assessment, planning and implementation and evaluation. This is the category commonly we are using for the nursing students. And one more is there, that is given by Tanner's clinical judgment model. In that case, you can use the categories like noticing, interpreting, responding and reflection. For these areas, you can give or you can decide a particular weightage. So this way also you can set the evaluation criteria. Next one is grading and interpretation of OSCE. In the grading, you can decide whether it is pass with superior performance or only just a pass or a fail. Or sometimes you may be giving us pass or fail. Sometimes you may not give the pass or fail. You will tell that competent or not competent. Or sometimes you may mention only pass. Otherwise, you can mark like this: potential fail, partial fail and full fail. Potential fail means the students will be may not be having skill in a particular point or particular task, so only that point can be repeated. Partial skill means one particular station will be fully on, or that entire things related to that particular subject or topic might have gone. And full fail means the entire session should be repeated. Particular student failed in that. Otherwise, you can give the marks in person or in percentage wise. You can tell this was the percentage level of performance of the student. That way also you can grade. And the another one is, after the examination, you are supposed to give feedback for the students. Feedback of performance is given at the end of the whole group, and you can give marks to the students individually. And if the competency is not 100%, you can give an opportunity for the student to revise in the case of formative evaluation, but it's not possible in the case of summative evaluation. So these are the key points about the OSCE. So thank you for watching this video.